Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you for taking your time off your day, and welcome to our first information session around our week of service in South Dakota. I'm saying it's first because we will be planning on another one probably in March, and for more participants. And I want to welcome Sam Steinmetz from Simply Smiles, who'll be joining with us. And she'll be walking us through not just the program of the work at the camp and what the camp is, but also a little bit of the context, the community, the history, and just give us a larger context. And before I hand it off to Sam, just a little technicalities. I'm going to keep everybody muted. We'll take questions after the presentation. So then you could either raise your hand if you have your video on, and we'll give you the mic, and you could either ask by voice, or you could also chat them in, especially if your video is not on, or you're calling from a phone, and we can't see you wanting to ask a question, then you could chat them in. And I do expect some more people. We had several more registrations for the call, so we may be joined as we go along. And we plan for about an hour. So I think by noon Eastern time, we should be done. So we have about 55 minutes from now. So I will just give a brief kind of like context of how this whole thing came to be, because that in itself is exciting and inspiring to me. So in the largest context, this is one action that we're doing as part of the Zen Peacemakers offering. And the Zen Peacemakers is an international reach group of social action and spiritual practitioners. We're known for both social action and activism and our bearing witness retreats. And one of the main factors that made this particular week happen is a very long relationship that one of our teachers, Genro Gauntt, started with some Lakota elders in Pine Ridge Reservation, especially, and he was actually adopted as one of as their family, and he developed that relationship, a very personal relationship, and that culminated in a bearing witness retreat that we did in the Black Hills 2 years ago, in 2015, attended by 180 people, and we bore witness to a lot of stories of both of the culture, but also of the pain and the trauma that they experienced there. We bore witness to the beautiful land of the Black Hills, and we created connections and relationships. That developed into the following year when a group of the Zen Peacemakers arrived in Cheyenne River. And at that time, we went there for a week with no actual plan. We just came again to we call it a plunge. We just came. We had several things that we wanted to pay attention to, but we were really coming with this mind of not knowing. This is one of the 3 tenets that the Zen Peacemakers are practiced by. And the first one is not knowing. The second one is bearing witness. And the third one is taking action. So last year when we came to Cheyenne River, we came not knowing. We knew by another Lakota ally we have, which is Tiokasin Ghosthorse, who is a dear friend, and he's also involved with Simply Smiles. And he brought us to the camp. He brought us to this really wonderful oasis in the middle of those green hills. And we were welcomed by this camp, and surprised to find ourselves caulking windows and sanding door sills and window sills and building homes for Lakota locals. We actually met some of the people who were going to go into these houses. that wasn't the whole intention of our going there. We also went to visit the youth center. We went to visit the horse refuge, and we went to visit Arthur Looking Horse, who is the 19th holder of the sacred pipe, which is the highest level of the spiritual figure of the Lakota. So it was very moving for all of us. We were about 25 people. And one of the things that really came out of it was a willingness to come back to Simply Smiles and just work and just serve. And I'm excited about it because it's a wonderful expression of those three tenets of not knowing, bearing witness, and taking action. So this has a lot of that taking action aspect of it. And at the same time, there will still be so much space there to learn and develop curiosity and meet and develop that not knowing. So that's the larger context of how this came to be. And I see Gaia just joined us by web. So Gaia, your mic is turned off right now. We'll take questions later, and you could either chat them in if you want to chat questions in, or if you turn your video on, we can see your hand when you raise it. Another technical thing, just so you know, there's the top right, there's a button that says speaker view or gallery view. And that way you can either toggle between seeing all of the faces or just see the person who speaks. So I recommend having the speaker view, so that way you could see either me or Sam, and when she gives the presentation, you also see the presentation in full screen. Okay, so with no further ado, I want to introduce again Sam Steinmetz from Simply Smiles. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Welcome to our group, and please take us through your presentation.
Yeah, of course. Well, thank you very much for having me. As Rami said, we're very excited to start this partnership with the Zen Peacemakers. It was really cool, you all visiting us out on the reservation last summer. The kids really loved it, and it was great to meet people from all walks of life all around the world, and it'll be super impactful for our kids and the community on the reservation to do the same. So I'm just going to take a second to share my screen and share my presentation with you all. All right, is that good, Rami? Great. All right, so we are Simply Smiles. We work both on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation out in South Dakota and in Oaxaca, Mexico. And we work to build bright futures for children, their families, and communities in those places. And so we do everything from responding to emergency aid, emergency relief, all the way up through college scholarships and beyond. So we are very much part of the communities in which we work, and we are able to respond to emergencies when they happen and are able to sit down with one of our girls, Juanita, on the reservation and talk about her dreams for college. So today I'm going to focus on our work on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation, where you all are planning to join us. And I'm going to start with a little bit about the background, the history of the reservation, because it's largely an untold story, and it's largely one of genocide, and a really painful part of our American history. So this is the portion of our country that the Lakota, or the Sioux Nation, was in 1492, in the first contact from European people. And the Lakota people roamed this whole vast area of our country. And that little blue dot is what the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation is today, for some context. But the Lakota are who you think of when you think of Native Americans. They roamed the West, and they, rode horses and lived in teepees. They had great leaders like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. And in 1824, the Bureau of Indian Affairs was created underneath the War Department of the United States government. The BIA, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, still exists today, but from the very beginning, it set a very hostile tone towards Native Americans. And the Lakota were systematically removed from the landscape of America throughout the 1800s. The official Homestead Act of 1862 granted Western land to anyone who wanted it, any white person who wanted it. And so people were incentivized to move west and push the Lakota, push any Native people off of the land they were living, off their sacred land. And Native people's rights and humanity were largely ignored. And one of the biggest impacts of this was the buffalo. The Lakota people roamed this whole area of our country following herds of buffalo, the animal that sustained the Lakota people. But as thousands of hunters and people started moving west, they started slaughtering the buffalo. And by around the mid 1800s, there was an estimated 30 to 60 million buffalo that roamed this area. And, it helped the Lakota people survive the whole year round. But by the mid 19th century, there are only 300 buffalo left in the wild. Now, as the Lakota were being stripped of their lands, the oppression was very much just beginning. In the 1870s, the Lakota were made wards of the federal government. All Native people were made wards of the federal government, meaning they weren't allowed to leave these new reservations, the borders that they were put around their land, because the government and the Western settlers were taking everything else. So they're essentially prisoners of war in their own country. In 1877, the sell or starve policy was put in place, which gave the Lakota people a choice to either sell more of this land back to the United States government that was already taken away from them, or the government wouldn't send any more food and supplies for the people to survive. So because the buffalo were gone, and because they were put on this new land you couldn't grow anything, and it wasn't really their land, they were already, in 1877, 100% dependent on the United States government to just survive. And the government made them this way. And through all of this, years and years of battles ensued until 1890, which was the massacre at Wounded Knee. This was when 300 Lakota men, women, and children were slaughtered by the American 7th Cavalry. And this is in South Dakota. It's a few hours away from where we are located. And so these people that died here, they're the ancestors of our community. And after this one battle, 20 Congressional Medals of Valor were given to the American 7th Cavalry, which is the most ever rewarded after a single battle. And so this is when Lakota resistance largely ended. They had nothing left to give after this massacre. And so, this is in 1890. And so what does that mean today? Well, we like to refer to this quote from a famous Lakota leader named Black Elk. And he said, it wasn't just the people that died there. It wasn't just the community, but it was the Lakota dream. And it was the Lakota dream and their way of life and their dreams for the future that largely ended at Wounded Knee. And so throughout the rest of the 20th century, the unofficial policy towards Native Americans was to kill the Indian and save the man. This meant that thousands upon thousands of Native youth throughout our country were stolen from their homes and forced into Christian boarding schools, where they were told that being a Lakota was a sin, and they were forced to cut their long hair short. They were beaten if they spoke their Lakota language. And these kids are the elders in our town today. They're the grandparents. And so they, of course, didn't pass along their culture and their language and their way of life to their kids if they even had time to learn it, because they didn't want their kids and their grandkids, who are our summer camp kids today, they didn't want them to go through the same thing. They didn't want them to feel ashamed to be Lakota. And so they didn't teach it to them. And so this oppression continued throughout the 1970s with the killing of the American Indian movement. And it still largely continues today with the, just a couple of years ago, there was a big sequester of the American government in 2013. And the government removed $220 million out of Indian Health Services budget, which means that the one hospital that's on the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation, their budget halfway through the year just runs out. And so they cannot appropriately respond to emergencies and help people get healthy. And, with all of our very important discussions throughout our country and our world about race relations in America, Native people are just left out of this conversation. And Natives in our country today face longer average prison sentences than any other race, and face higher homicide and motor vehicle fatalities as well. And I'm sure most of you have heard and seen images from the protests up in Standing Rock in North Dakota. This obviously started happening this past year in 2016 with the Dakota Access Pipeline now is planned to run within miles of the Standing Rock Reservation up there, which is just 2 hours from where we are in LaPlante on the Cheyenne River Reservation, 2 hours south. And the pipeline is planned to cross the Missouri River twice, posing a threat to Lakota burial sites and, of course, the water supplies of everyone near the Missouri River. And despite lasting intertribal and protests around the pipeline and the temporary call to halt the construction by the Obama administration in September, the pipeline's operator, Energy Transfer Partners, continues construction with the backing of the state government and soon the backing of the federal government. And I just like to point out that the man directly to the left of the main person in this picture, the man with the hide shirt, is one of our great friends from LaPlante, from the reservation, whose home that we built recently. His name is Steve. He's been, a lot of our friends from the reservation have been some of the main leaders of the Standing Rock Reservation protests. And so this is largely the context for today. That blue square is the Cheyenne River Sioux Tribe Reservation out in South Dakota where we work. And we're focused in the town of LaPlante. And still today, the legacy of genocide and pain and suffering is still very much tangible here. And this is just a short video, so you can see more of LaPlante and in some of our response.
To be surprised, challenges, is the country facing today. And we should never forget that we play a role. We can't just invest in $1 billion, 5 years, and think that the money is not enough. This is truly about nation building. It will require fresh thinking and a massive infusion of resources over generations, right? Not years, but generations.
Our own government has not helped us like these people have helped us. They feed our children. They have a greenhouse here. They renovated our community building, which is probably the warmest community building now on the reservation. They're here to stay and help us. God sent me. If they left us right now, our children wouldn't have to go to school. But hopefully in the near future, we can help our younger generation understand unity is the only way we're going to survive.
Maybe I'll just say to the people who are on the phone and cannot see our video, and I think our audio of the video is not coming through. We're seeing a presentation about the camp, and we're seeing a lot of footage of the new homes that the camp has been creating over the years, the teamwork, the volunteers. One of the houses that we built last year was actually Ford's, the person we just saw speaking. I met him, and we were sanding the floor of his new bedroom. Sam, would you like to maybe just narrate what we're seeing in terms of, we just saw the garden, right? There's an organic garden there.
Yeah. Sorry, it's over now, but yeah, we saw pictures of our garden, of our the yearly powwow that we help host out on the reservation. Yeah, the homes that we built, all of which I'm going to talk about now, actually. So our response to all of this intense suffering on the reservation, we have a very holistic approach with Simply Smiles. It starts with our presence and our volunteer presence. We focus on community building and summer camp programs out on the reservation, home building, scholarships, college scholarships, employment, and beyond. And so over the last 6 years, we've been welcomed into this community. We've sat and listened and empathized and become friends and family with people in this town. And together we have started to plan what these kids, what these adults want for their future. And it's really our volunteers' presence that is the game changer in this situation. You very much cannot mail in support from afar to the reservation. You know, if Bill and Melinda Gates were to give Simply Smiles a couple $1 million right now, we wouldn't say no, but we would continue every week of the summer, May through August, to bring volunteers to this place, to continue reading books with Anastasia and making airplanes with Jaden. And it's really our volunteers that are creating this change, because with Simply Smiles, that's really where our name came from. It starts with a moment. It starts with a smile that then builds confidence, that then these kids start to understand that they deserve a better future. And these moments, they all provide hope. And so we also work to provide very tangible change on the reservation as well. So we've been working there for 7 years now, and for the last 5, we've been figuring out ways, and then successfully building new homes on the reservation. And so this is just a quick time-lapse video of one of the first homes that we've built out there. Like I said, it took us years to figure out the best way to build new homes in this place, even though from our very first moment out there, we knew that there was a intense housing crisis. But we had to get to know the community and get to know the situation and the weather out there to figure out the best way to build sustainable, safe homes. And so we partnered with this company called Brighton Homes, and they build prefab homes that you can put together with unskilled volunteer labor. And the walls are made out of concrete, and it can sustain any hurricane, tornado, wind. The roof is made out of metal, and it's insulated at R55, which is way beyond any home's insulation out, at least in the East Coast. And they go together pretty fast, not as fast as what you just saw, but we are able throughout the summer to build these amazing, wonderful oases for these families. And this past summer, we built 2, the first time that we were able to do 2 at a time, one for Ford and his family, and one for another man named Key and his family. And we are very excited to provide these safe, wonderful homes so that the kids, in these families, they can come home and do their homework and not have to use their mental space to survive every day, which is what many of the people here on this reservation are doing. They're just surviving. And when you don't have to worry about that, when you don't have to worry about being cold, then you can actually start to think of your future. And so this summer, other side of that is that we're actually not building a new home for the first time in 4 years this summer because of a few reasons. One is that we have spent 5 years building and stress testing these homes through the weather and through time. And we have found that there are a few things that we need to adjust because the winters out there are unlike anything we have ever experienced. Just a couple weeks ago, there was, right around Christmas, actually, there was a huge storm out there. People got 10 feet of snow in La Plante, and they were without power for 4 days. And the local electric company had to come in with a helicopter because the wind and the snowdrifts were so intense and bad, and the ice, to just fix the power lines. And so we this summer are going to focus on building things like entryways to the homes that we built so that they can keep the cold air out better, and insulating the roof a little better. Even though the houses are doing very well, there's things that we can do a little better, and we want to make sure they're 100% perfect before we build the next house. The other side of that is this family, Delima, and her 4 grandkids who she's living with need our assistance right now. Delima, she received a house from Habitat for Humanity that used to work on the reservation, but then failed there because people on the reservation were too poor for the Habitat for Humanity model. And so Delima's house has not received any upkeep or anything for a very long time now, but she did just recently pay off her mortgage, which she's very proud of. And so she wants to keep this home and she wants to keep it up. But there was recently a dryer fire in her house, and she needs help. And so this summer we're going to focus a lot of our time on fixing up Delima's house and make it the place that she and her grandkids deserve. And so though we are excited and always wanting to build new houses and provide these amazing places for these families, right now we have to respond to the needs as they are. And Delima and her family is that main need this summer. We're also going to be focusing on strengthening the infrastructure of the community center. And so this is the town, this is where we're focused, where Simply Smiles is, in the town of La Plante. This is the town's community center, but it's where we are welcome to stay when we are there. And we have built everything that you see here. The community center building is where we stay and where we're focused. And then we have a whole greenhouse garden that you see in the background. There's horseshoe pits, basketball courts, and our playground, and so much more. And so this is really a place that we're going to be focusing on this summer as well, to continue providing these amazing things for the kids specifically and for the community, so that we can continue hosting townwide meals. We host 3 townwide meals throughout the week to build the community and have them come together. We host a yearly powwow, drumming and dance Lakota ceremony every year. And we're very much going to be working with the community, hand in hand with the kids and with the adults alike, supporting youth development and really using your talents, volunteer talents, to do so. So we'll talk about this more later, but we're going to ask you all to tell us, if you're really passionate about sewing, or you're really knowledgeable about construction work and would be willing to work one-on-one with a kid or adult, to do that, to share your passion. And so again, it all really starts with our volunteers. And so this is another short video about specifically our volunteer experience on the reservation, just so you get a little more taste of that as well. So along with building homes, we have our summer camp programs. These are some of our volunteers from last year, a high school group that came out. And they helped us set up a teepee with our friends.
Past 3 days, I played horse with him for I think 3 nights, and he'll sit with me when I have lunch. Just like an awesome dude.
When fourth daughter first set foot on the floors when they were laid down, the first thing she did. So nothing more special than knowing that.
The basketball tournament was incredible. The stage was not a lot of people come here usually. So it was really cool to see 100 plus in the gym.
And just so you know, we're also recording this session, so that will become available to you afterwards. And if you'd like to watch this again, you could.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of made me realize how things are here and how much they need us to be here and help out. I was talking to Winter and I was like, oh, so how do you like living in Laquan? And she said, Laquan's not great.
Every day when the kids get off the bus, you see them smiling, and you don't see them smile often, so when you do see them smile, it always touches your heart.
One of my little girls, Jahida, she's 11 years old, and she told me that she wanted to go to college and run cross country, which is great because not everyone really has dreams of leaving the reservation or doing much with their lives. Dignity. Just giving people love and support. I think it means hope.
Sharing happiness.
Home. No one is left behind.
Making relationships and connections.
Being a safe place for the kids to come. The definition of and as long as they're happy, we're happy. We have so much to do right in our backyards. 100% never more.
Yes. Sorry. So the main thesis of having our volunteers come out to the reservation is, by the time Baptiste, who's pictured here, by the end of the week, he starts to understand that he is not that much different than you. And when it's that change that happens, that our kids start to understand that they deserve everything in this world that we have, all the educational opportunities, all the job opportunities, everything. It's when that really change starts to happen in our kids' minds that we'll be able to see real results here on the reservation, and we already have been. And so I'm now going to talk a little bit more about the actual volunteer experience, the day by day out on the reservation. And all of this information is in our volunteer handbook that's on our website and that I've sent to Rami. So you all can look through that page by page too. It's a pretty detailed account of everything from a packing list to phone numbers and things like that. And so I'm going to go over some of it now. So this is just kind of an overview of what it is like on the living for a week with us on the reservation. The living situation is pretty basic. We have latrines for bathrooms, and they are pretty nice latrines. We keep them clean, and that's what you see in the top left-hand corner there. So they're not that bad. We stay and live in the La Plante Community Center. We all sleep and live in the community center together throughout the week. And then that's also where we host summer camp, inside and out, depending on the weather. We make all of our own food, and we eat very well, actually, very healthy, good food for basically camping out on the reservation. We're all able to usually visit the Missouri River, which is just 20 minutes away from where we are, once or twice a week to rinse off. And we usually are able to go up to the La Plante School right across the street to shower once-ish, usually as well. That we cannot entirely promise because it's not our place, but the school does usually let us go up there to just rinse off once or twice throughout the week, depending on their schedule. The staff, I will be out there throughout the summer as well as the rest of our Simply Smiles staff and a bunch of college interns. And we are with you as volunteers 24 hours a day, 7 days throughout the whole week. We'll pick you up from the airport and be with you the whole entire time. And it is a very safe experience as well. The staff is trained in CPR and first aid. We'll go over some of the more safety features later on. And so these are just more specific details about actually coming and getting out to the reservation, which again, you can read fully in the Simply Smiles volunteer handbook. But you all will be flying into the Rapid City, South Dakota airport, which I'll talk to Rami more about as well. And we'll pick you up in our Simply Smiles school bus. One of the Simply Smiles staff, we all have our bus driver's license, which is a fun fact, fun part of our job. To get out to volunteer with us, the only inoculation that you'll need is a tetanus shot, which most people have anyway, just for precautionary purposes. Like I said, we'll be making all of our own food together, a lot of vegetables and healthy food. We just want you to be aware that it is a very different culture, and out on the reservation, it's technically not the United States of America. So we very much have to go in thinking and having the mindset that it's more of a third world country, and it's not our place, it's not our land. And so we have to go in mentally as such. One of our mantras for Simply Smiles is flexibility is always fun, because though we do plan most minutes of every day, we can get hit by a huge rainstorm in the middle of the day too. So we always just have to be a little flexible because we are out in the middle of South Dakota, which does not have a lot going on. In terms of religion, Simply Smiles is a non-religious organization. And so we do often work with church groups, school groups of any kind and any faith. But we just ask that when you are there, that you tread very lightly. And a lot of our friends are Christian out there. Some are Catholic and Baptist. But we ask that you just listen first. And if they want to hear about your religion or your faith or your practices, that's great. You can share that. But please just tread very lightly because of the history, because of the current situation in this place, a lot of people have been hurt by the Catholic Church, by the Baptist church in town. And so we just can't be officially associated with that as an organization so that we can help as many people as possible. these are just some more details. You can definitely bring your camera to the reservation and take a lot of pictures during summer camp. Usually there will be times that we ask you not to take pictures, but we'll talk about that more when we get out there. We'll drink a lot of water throughout the week. Another one of our Simply Smiles mantras out there is hydrate or die, which is kind of a joke, but does get very hot in the middle of the summer, and there's not a lot of shade, not a lot of trees out in South Dakota. In terms of packing, we ask that you just pack relatively light and with a duffel bag, like without wheels, because especially on the bus and sometimes during the day, we'll have to pack your suitcases one on top of one another, and we don't want to crush things with other people's heavy stuff. So just be aware of that. And in the weather, again, it does get very hot right now it gets down to like -20 in the winter, but even last summer it got to over 100 degrees many days. And so we are very conscious of that all the time, but be sure to just check the weather report before you come out, and we'll be in contact too, of course, so you can prepare appropriately. You will disclose like any medical information or dietary needs on your volunteer release forms that we have. And we just ask that, of course, you bring all necessary medications and things for allergies and everything you need with you, and enough of that with you for the whole week. The week is pretty physically demanding. We do a lot of construction work in the mornings and a lot of running around with kids in the afternoon. So please just be aware of that. And we have work for everyone of all skill levels. We definitely have work for people who are professional construction workers, and we definitely have work for people who are very much not. And the Simply Smiles staff will be with you again every step of the way and teaching you every project that we work on. The Simply Smiles volunteer fee is all inclusive. So besides your flight. So the fee helps to cover your food and lodging and ground transportation out in South Dakota, and portion of the construction supplies and things like that. But if you want any extra money for like snacks while traveling and stuff like that, you are more than welcome to bring some extra cash, and we have a safe out there that we can keep stuff in throughout the week. We'll go over more communication details in a minute. And yeah, you guys will be helping us just keep the community center clean throughout the week as well. This is your rough schedule for the week, day by day. Saturday, you'll be coming in to Rapid City. We'll pick you up. And La Plante, the Cheyenne River Reservation, is about a 5-hour drive from Rapid City. So we'll all travel together and go slowly from there. On Sunday, we talk a bit in the morning about the reservation and more about the situation and what we'll be working on. Then we do some construction work, and then Sunday evening we have a townwide dinner where we invite everyone in town to come join us for dinner, so you guys get to know and meet some of our friends. Monday through Friday are largely the same. We have construction projects in the morning, and then camp in the afternoon. We start camp every day at 1:30. We provide lunch for all of our kids, and then have 3 hours of summer camp where you all will be planning summer camp activities that you want to host out there, whether it be games and crafts or theme days, everything and anything that you can imagine. Thursday, we might go on like a big field trip or have a fun special program for the kids in town. And then Friday, largely the same, except we end the week with another townwide dinner with everyone in town. And then Saturday, we all get in our bus and go back to Rapid City. And so again, this is a typical day on the reservation: morning work projects, afternoon summer camps, and then often some sort of community program in the evening. We do have some evenings off too, where we either go to the river or we just have downtime or one-on-one time with some elders in town who just like to hang around. This is the packing list, which I won't go through line by line, but again, you can do that on your own. These are some just additional resources, books that are really helpful. to read before you come out, and some movies and television series as well that shows like what it's really like today out on the reservation if you're interested. One of my favorites is The Absolutely True Diary of a Part-Time Indian by Sherman Alexie. This is more about safety out on the reservation. Again, the staff is with you throughout the whole week, every hour of the day. We've been hosting, as an organization, hosting volunteers since 2003. So we've been doing this for a very long time and have had thousands of volunteers join us, both on the reservation and in Mexico. Again, we're all the staff is certified in CPR and first aid. The hospital is just 20 minutes away. It's not that far, the closest one. And then there's a few others that are accessible as well. We largely go by common sense. You know, if it's a very windy day, we don't go high on ladders and things like that. And we're very conservative in our decision-making in terms of construction work and safety in general. And we've very much been accepted and welcomed into this community, which took a few years for us to be able to be accepted into this community, and for people to really want us there because of all the trust issues and because of the history, the really negative history of this place. But we are now, and we're very much family, and everyone largely has our back. These are just some additional important notes. In terms of the leadership structure, of course, Rami is the group's leader, and then I will be out there with you day by day, leading the week. Alcohol is, of course, not an option for the week on the reservation. It's a completely dry week and dry organization, largely because of the problems with alcohol on the reservation and because of safety issues as well. This is just a note about communicating while on the reservation. We have all of our phone numbers there, from Brian Nernberger, who's the president and founder of the organization. His cell phone number is there, my cell phone number, and the reservation landline. Cell phone reception is not great. Verizon's really the only one that works well, but there are landlines and ways to get in contact. And the Simply Smile staff, of course, will have our cell phones on us throughout the week, throughout every day. And we'll be posting to our social media things as well, so people back home can see what you're up to. For cell phones on the reservation, for adults, which all of you are, we just ask that you don't have your cell phone out all of the time. We'll have specific time in the morning and evening that you can use your cell phone. It's just very hard if all of us are on our cell phones throughout the day. It puts a pretty big divide between us and the community who don't have iPhones, and we think it's much easier to be fully immersed in this situation in the week if you are not. This is a breakdown of the costs for the week. The Simply Smiles volunteer fee is $750 for the week, which again covers everything once you're out there. So it's really just that plus your plane ticket and according to your group, some additional costs. But it's really not much. Some groups bring out arts and crafts supplies and game supplies, which could cost a few dollars here or there, and then just your transportation to your local airport. But really it's the Simply Smiles volunteer fee and your flight that covers your experience. Just a few more things. The age minimum requirement for Simply Smiles is 15 years old. And before you come out, we just ask that you fill out a skills disclosure and volunteer release form, which is largely to tell us what your passions are and what you can bring to this experience. So again, whether it's construction experience or teaching or psychology, child services, things like that would be really helpful to know way ahead of time so we can plan for that and use your skills as best we can. And also medical issues as well, so that we are fully prepared for that. And that's it. So thank you all very, very much for listening and for being a part of this. We're really, really excited. And if any of you have any questions, now would be a great time to ask.
Great. And first, I'll just say thank you to Sam. And I saw Clay raising your hand, so I'll give you the mic in a second. I also just want to acknowledge the time. It's 11:52, and initially we spoke about doing it for an hour. I'm personally, I can stay for about until like 12:10, and I don't know if Sam, that's something that works for you.
I'm free, yeah.
You're free, great.
Yeah.
And if you do need to leave at noon, feel free to do that. We are recording this session, and I will send the link later to everybody on this call, so you will be able to return back. Yeah, okay, so Clay, you got the mic.
Hi, thanks. That was a great presentation and very informative. I think my most pressing question is that last slide, and wondering whether we can bring our children who are less than 15. And
yeah, unfortunately for Simply Smiles, we have very strict insurance liability restrictions, and so we have to have our age minimum at 15. So for this trip, I'm sorry about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to ask a question, if your video is on, you can raise your hand, or you can also chat in text. There's on the bottom of the screen, you can open a chat box, and then you can chat in a question. And I do also want to acknowledge one of the last slides that Sam was talking about, just in terms of the costs. The breakdown that Sam gave, the $750, the fee that goes to Simply Smiles, and the fee that we're asking through the Zen Peacemakers is $1,250, $1,250, and that goes towards, first of all, to cover your $750, and the rest goes to this coordination, this sort of planning, this sort of administration, and also being able to bring Tiokasin there, and Genro, who is the Zen teacher who I spoke about before. And that also adds another aspect to the presentation, that we're framing all of this, and that's part of the context that I was trying to give in the beginning, as part of the Zen Peacemakers activities. And the days of work that we'll be doing at the camp will be bookended in the morning and in the evening by Zen Peacemaker practices. We'll sit together. If some of us have personal prayer practices, we'll do that. We also practice counsel, which is something very important for our practices, where we are sitting together and sharing our experience, but doing that from that meditative space together. And we'll also have this resource of having both Genro, who is a Zen master in our lineage, and Tiokasin with us. So part of those costs are applied toward the full cost that Zen Peacemakers are requesting. And the way that the relationship between Simply Smiles and Zen Peacemakers is working is that Simply Smiles can't take individual volunteers. They have to take groups. So we're organizing this group for Simply Smiles. And it's an unusual group because we're like an international church. We're bringing people from all over. So, so I just wanted to put that in. So if there are any other questions, I'm seeing we have several. I see Gaia. Okay. You have the mic, Gaia.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. My question is mostly about the whether people my age can keep up with that kind of a schedule. Like, I was a little worried about whether, like, if I needed to rest in the morning for half an hour or something like that during a construction project, would I be able to do that?
Yes, of course. Yes, we're definitely open and able to respond to everyone's needs. And of course, if you need to rest, then we'll bring you back to the camp and you'll rest.
Oh, I wouldn't even necessarily need to be brought back, just to be able to like sit down and stop working for
No, of course. We have people of all ages, high school up through their 80s working with us, and it's always been fine. It's been great. So yes, of course, we're definitely able to.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gaia, I think when we were there last year, Sam, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was a woman who was 86
Uh-huh.
or 84, right?
Yes. Yeah. She was
From
very strong.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question, Gaia. Where are you from, Gaia?
Taos, New Mexico.
Wow,
Great.
great. Thank you for joining us. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Great. Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Gaia? Yeah.
I have to leave, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gaia. One thing that I'll also add is, as you can see, that this whole operation that Simply Smiles is putting together is very dependent on a lot of factors. And that's why they also asked us to conform to a pretty structured timeline in terms of the registrations. So even though this event that we're planning is in August, we will need to complete our registrations, and that's our goal, is to complete our registrations by middle of March. So that gives us more than 4 months until the event. But we will need to make those registrations soon. So by mid-March, we have the set group, and we can make the deposits that they need in order to move their elements and ingredients forward in terms of buying the construction materials. So I'm just encouraging that if you positively think of joining us, do it as soon as conveniently possible. Yeah. Okay. I'm not seeing, let's see, I'm not seeing video from Michelle or Crescent, and I don't know if I'm missing anything from you guys. So I'm opening the mic for Crescent and Michelle. And if you want to say anything, please do.
Just hello. No questions. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Rami.
Okay. Is this Michelle Dobbs, Engu?
Yes.
Great. Yeah. Michelle just been to Standing Rock in December with Genro. And we actually had, I think I counted more than 20 of our members, international members, who visited Standing Rock.
Very cool.
And the protest in Standing Rock started as we left. We left in end of July, and I remember seeing, I think there was a photo of 1 or 2 cars there. So we just missed it.
Yeah. A bunch of our families in the plot, especially over the summer, went for the beginning of the protests, and a few of them have stayed and are living up there now.
Yeah, we were staying with Chaz.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Chaz Jewett
from Cheyenne River.
Yeah.
Great.
And just to mention that, I don't know if Sam is aware of that, but we are planning on adding another week after this week, where we're going to do our own thing, like that, kind of like not knowing plans that we did last year. It's still in planning. We don't know what's going to be, but that's another plan. So that will be attached at the end of it. And so that's it. So I'm also seeing that it's noon, and we kind of came up to our time. Last call for questions from Crescent or Lily. And if anything else comes up after this presentation, feel free to email me. I'll be happy to either answer that or connect you with Sam as needed. Okay, so it seems like we did pretty. Seems like there are no more questions right now. So I want to thank everybody for your time and taking your time from your midday and joining us. And I want to deeply appreciate Sam's time for joining us and sharing your work, what seems to be 7 wonderful years of service. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. And I will send a follow-up email with a link to this recording and to the handbook, and I look forward to connecting further.
Great.
Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll talk to you more soon.
Okay, great. So I'm going to unmute everybody so you can say goodbye, and we'll end the call. All right. Everybody's live.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.